Okay, so we might just get underway with a bit of housekeeping and that sort of thing before we start. So just quickly, who am I? You may not recognize me. Some of you might, because I've been on site or video calls and that kind of thing. I'm Simon. I've been a developer with ETQ for about 4 years now, a little bit over. Okay, and I've also been to a few conferences and trainings and that type of thing. Okay, also assisting with this presentation and in the background, sort of doing some producing and moderating the Q&A, is the head of development, Jamie Nicholas, who I'm sure a lot of you know. And also assisting is our business development manager, Pamela Chi. So they're going to be in the background and potentially butt in if I forget something or overlook something or I'm sharing the wrong thing. So first live event that we are doing. So as you can tell, some things can go wrong, and what can go wrong will go wrong. So please be mindful of that. So just to reiterate what you should be able to see on your screen, this is our first online seminar that we're delivering, the first hopefully of many. Okay, so we'll continue these in the future for different types of topics to try and spread the knowledge and make sure you guys are empowered with the ability to use Nexus to the fullest of its ability. Okay, we will be taking questions through the Q&A pane. So you should be able to click a button which looks like a little question and answer with a little question bubble. Okay, and that will allow you to put a question through into the Q&A pane. Okay, and if you just want to try it out, please feel free to just say hello and let us know that you're there, because otherwise we can't see or hear you. So just feel free to say hello. Or if you're having any issues, and getting stuck with anything or anything like that, also try and send us a message through the Q&A. I've put a little note down the bottom there that if you can't find the Q&A button, we had some issues during our testing. Just try exiting out of full screen mode. Okay, if you're in full screen mode, and then you should be able to see the Q&A button there. Okay, so I think we're all good, and it's now about 3 past, so we may as well get underway. So what is this training session? This training session is obviously on the Nexus Document Center. So the idea is to provide everyone with an understanding of how to use the features within Document Center. Okay, we have a large range of features within Document Center. The Document Center is, in case you're unaware, if you're coming into this without any knowledge of what the Document Center is, it's a paperless document management system that is integrated within Nexus and comes packaged within Nexus. Okay, and that allows for archiving and retrieval of all documents generated within Nexus. Okay, beyond that, it also serves as a filing cabinet for any digital information or documents that you want to store. Okay, so that could also be documents that you've created within your business. Okay, and you can actually enter them into the system here as a way of storing and then retrieving that information later. So there's a large range of functionality to cover. I will mention that given that we're approaching this training from the point of view of beginners as well as people who are already familiar with the Document Center, we may be covering some topics that may already be familiar to you or you may already know, but please bear with us and stick right through to the end because we're going to be covering a large range of new functionality, some that's new to Nexus 10, and most definitely some functionality that you wouldn't have seen yet. Okay, so please do stick around. On top of that, also, we will try and get to the Q&A throughout the presentation. Our moderators will try and answer your questions throughout, so please feel free to just ask the question at the time that it comes to you. And then I will try and cover that at the end as well to go over some of the questions where applicable. Just to quickly run through the topics that we're going to cover. This was also in the email. We're going to cover configuring documents such as invoices to automatically archive into the Document Center. Okay, the retrieving of invoices using transaction history. Attaching supporting documents such as proof of delivery documents. Searching for other types of documents. We're going to cover stock documents such as spec sheets or informational documents about stock records. Okay, and then we're also going to cover debtor, creditor, employee, and general ledger documents, which was new in Nexus 10. Okay, the next topics after that is the creditors invoices and receipt documents. And lastly, we'll just finish up with some security and configuration items available within the document center. Okay, and I'll just take this moment as we begin, before we get into the demonstration part of the training, just to mention that this training will assume that your document center is already installed and configured correctly. Okay, so we won't be covering setting up the document center in the initial instance, but please do reach out to us if that hasn't been done on your site. That should already have been done. But if you need any help with that, please do reach out to us and to our consulting team, and they can assist you with that. The other thing I will mention is that this is all in a Nexus 10 environment. So if you see some features that aren't available yet in your system, we do encourage you to talk to us as well, and talk to us about upgrading to take advantage of those latest features because they're quite powerful. Okay, I will now begin by sharing my Nexus screen. Okay, and we'll start off with the basics, okay, right at the very beginning, and that is ensuring that everything is configured correctly in System Forms default maintenance. Okay, so we use System Form default maintenance to configure that documents should be automatically archived into the document center. Okay, and without that, then nothing will be going into the document center until that is done. So you can open up Forms default maintenance. And in this particular instance, we are going to use stock invoice print, and that's probably the most common scenario of a document that people would like to, archive and retrieve later. Okay, and that's particularly handy if customers have inquiries about their invoices, or they claim that they didn't get it. Maybe it was sort of lost in transit, or they didn't get the email. This is an easy way to make sure that these are stored and available for retrieval later. So by searching for SAINV RPT, that's stock invoice update and print, you'll see we just have one sequence configured just for simplicity. Okay, we're going to output it to view for the point of demonstration, just so we can see the document. And the setting we're concerned with here is the archive option. Okay, the archive option will determine what goes into the document center. So just change that to a yes. Okay, and we can save that. Now, it's worth noting that if you have a second sequence, okay, so for instance, some people will have a second sequence that maybe is going to electronic, okay, so maybe you have one that's printing, or if you're going totally paperless, you'll only have the electronic. Okay, it's worth noting that if you have two sequences, to make sure that archive isn't selected twice. Okay, we only need archive to be on once, otherwise we're going to be receiving duplicate copies of everything. Okay, so pretty clear there. I'll just cancel out of that, we don't need that. Okay. And so now that that's set up in System Forms default maintenance, we can simply just now create an invoice to ensure that documents are going into the document center and demonstrate how that works. So I'm just going to pick up an example debtor and load up a profile for them. Okay, this debtor is ABC Tank Company in our demo data. Okay, and we have a profile here for profile order entry. Okay, we're going to order, I think, some flour and Pringles sound good. Pretty simple order. We'll stick to that. F10, and we're going to save that direct and create an invoice straight away. Okay, and so we should generate now an invoice that will be going to view. Okay, and we have our invoice here. So I've output it to view just so that we can see that we have got the invoice and how it looks before we retrieve it later. Okay, and I will just take this moment to point out here on that invoice, as you can see in our demonstration data, we have set up a Nexus Pay barcode. Okay, that is something that we'll be touching on in the coming training sessions. Okay, that is a new feature to Nexus 10 that some people haven't seen, allowing for customers to pay their invoices. So if you're interested in that, please reach out for more information on that, but I won't be covering that here. Okay, we'll just close that. can get out of profile order entry now. Okay, so automatically without any sort of interference from us, that document has been archived into the document center, okay, and is available for us to retrieve at any point. And so we'll obviously want to retrieve that now, okay, and one simple way to do that is using debtors transaction inquiry. Okay, we can load up that data, find the relevant transaction, there it is down the bottom, bring that up into sales history inquiry. Now, if we use the F2 option, you'll see we have number 9 here, retrieve document, transaction document from Doc Center. Okay, that option will only appear if the invoice has been archived into the document center. Otherwise, that option won't be available. Simple click of that brings up the document exactly as it was at the time that we created it. Okay, so it's not relying on that data to be stored in the system anymore. If the stock codes and descriptions have changed, that's fine. This document will remain as it is at that time. So from here, it would be simply useful to print or email that document. Let's say the customer was asking for it, okay, or save that to disk if you want to do something different with that. So lots you can do at that point in time. Once we close this document here, okay, this is the window that was presented, which is the document center interface, okay, and it's telling us that we are viewing the stock invoice print document, and that is the document key being the invoice number, okay. So this is basically just open up the document center and done a search just for that one document, okay, and it is showing the relevant metadata and information about that document, including the invoice number, the document type being stock invoice print, the date the document was created, the year and period, and the user. Okay, ignore the fact that the period is old. That's our demonstration data. We haven't done an end of month in a while. Okay, so that's all there, and at any point here we can retrieve anything again just by double clicking on it. So simple as to retrieve that and do anything we need to do with that. So the common scenario that we want to handle will be the saving and archiving of a customer's signature on a document or a proof of delivery document. Okay, so for instance, the delivery driver may take a copy of an invoice if you're in a paper system and get a physical signature on the document that the customer received the goods. Okay, so if we have a document that we want to attach and store, we can actually upload that as a child document of this document. We call that a supporting document. So if you right click on that document there, that listing, you see we have a few options, including one which is to attach a supporting document. If we select that, we're presented with an open file dialog, and I can attach my signed invoice there. Like this one here, signed invoice. Okay, and that goes in as a second revision, okay, which with the same document key, such that any time in the future when we search, we are now shown both documents. I'll just double click that to show you which document it was. As you can see, the same order. This is one I actually filled out earlier and signed on the bottom there. So very, very handy if you have any disputes about documents, orders being received or not by customers, to have a digital copy of the proof of delivery there. I will take this time to mention that we also have third-party solutions that can integrate with the document center, okay, that can allow for automatic uploading of signed invoices. Okay, so one such solution that we use, which is still a paper solution, but a few of our clients are using that, and it is quite efficient. What happens is, say your driver goes out with a bunch of invoices and gets them all signed, and at the end of the day, they just bring it back to the office with a pile of invoices. Someone in the office can put them into a tray and put them into the scanner, and using the third-party solution, which would take advantage of a barcode scanning on an invoice or OCR technology, would pick up the data, the order number, and that type of thing, and that would shoot that through to the document center, which would then be automatically uploaded to the document center as a child document. So that's a really, really handy way to quickly and easily have invoices entered into the document center. Okay, but we're also looking now at how to become totally paperless. And so an even better solution, okay, would be to take advantage of the Nexus Pickup and Nexus Delivery apps. So I'll just, because I'm not going to be totally covering them here, I'll just come back to a slide that I've prepared earlier with some screen grabs of how this might look. Okay, this is using a Nexus Pickup app. Okay, and so the way Nexus Pickup would work is if you have, say, a warehouse and customers can come to the warehouse or come to the shop front and take their order, and we want to have some sort of indication that that is being taken away there. Okay, it's a similar concept for the Nexus Delivery, just that the driver would be taking a device with them. Okay, and what's handy about this is this is a sign-on glass solution. So once you retrieve the order, you're presented with a screen such as this. You can tick the items and sign that you've picked that up. Okay, and once you've done that, then a proof of delivery document is generated, which would look something like this. Okay, and this is actually a PDF document. And if you're using the Nexus Pickup and Nexus Delivery solutions, those documents will automatically be fed back into the document center without you having to do anything. So it's a totally sign-on glass paperless solution there for both pickup scenarios and for delivery scenarios. Okay, and we will be covering more on that in a future date. Okay, so we're going to have some future trainings on that to demonstrate that further. But please do reach out to us if that is something of interest to you, because that's a great way to take advantage of the document center. Okay, so I'll just move on from the invoice scenario now. Okay, we're finished with this. Close all that down. So another popular feature within the document center is the ability to use stock documents. Okay, and this has been around in Nexus for some time now and is continuously improving and becoming more integrated within different parts of Nexus. So a stock document could be something like a product specification or a fact sheet, maybe a manual, those types of things. Okay, and this is really, really handy to store into the system such that if any customer has an inquiry about any of those details, or maybe you need to retrieve them for your own internal purposes, you can do so easily. So to attach a stock document, you can just do that via the Stock Master maintenance screen. Okay, and we can pick up a particular stock code. I'm going to pick up my trusty Pringles. So in Stock Master Maintenance, there is a button here with a little paperclip icon. The paperclip is used to denote the attachments, similar to a email. If we click on that paperclip icon, we're given a small screen where we can upload a document or scan one in. So you can use a scanner to perhaps scan a physical piece of paper that you may have, and that's handy when you're doing invoices and signed invoices too. Okay, and that would just look something like this. Bring up your scanner and away you would go scanning that document. In this instance here, I'm going to browse for a file on disk. Okay, and I have a picture of the nutritional info for the Pringles. Now you can select a document key for that. The default is just a picture, but we can put some more relevant title for that. I can spell. Okay, and we can attach that document. When we return to the Stock Master maintenance screen, you'll see that we now have a piece of text telling us that we have one supporting document, okay, and we have two buttons now. The paperclip icon, as it is, will still be used for attaching. However, the one with the folder can be used to retrieve the open currently attached documents. So if I click that now, again, that interface pops up and the document automatically opens. Very, very handy to quickly retrieve the nutritional information there. Okay, so when there's only one document, the document will automatically be opened. Again, we have the same information that we saw earlier, just this time it's for a stock document. Okay, I can also attach multiple files. This is handy if you have a large number of files to attach for a particular document. Okay, so the way we can do that is if you have an Explorer window open, and here this is a baked beans stock code here. and we have some baked beans. We have a picture of our baked beans, and we have a fact sheet here. So if we want to attach multiple pictures or multiple documents, simply select them in Windows Explorer, drag them on, drop them there. You'll see here now that we have one file queued, and we're currently uploading the PNG image. So because it's a picture, I'll say picture. Okay, and I'll just take this time to mention there are some more options available. Okay, and the more options are the document creation date. So you can override that date rather than having the default date of today, in case you want to enter which date that was entered, as well as the document validity range. Okay, so the document validity range is very handy if you want to have documents that are only going to be around for, say, 1 year or 7 years until they're considered invalid and should be replaced. And we'll touch on that a little bit later when we're searching for documents, when that can come in handy. I'll leave that as it is for now, which is the default of 7 years, and that's configurable in a control path setting. Okay, so the picture has been added, and now this is the PDF. So I'll just call this one fact sheet and attach that one too. So you can see now we have 2 supporting documents attached. And as I mentioned a second ago, if we open up the document interface at the moment, because there's 2 documents, we won't automatically launch one. You can just double click to launch that and retrieve it when you need to. From this interface, another very handy thing for stock documents is the web-enabled column. Okay, so that is something that some people may not be familiar with, but if you're using the Storefront app or the Storefront website, okay, and you want this document to be available to your customers on the website, then you can do so. Simply just right-click and enable the setting, which is to set web enabled here. That's the last option. Okay, doing that will present us with a little tick in the web enabled column. And that means that that document can be seen on the website, assuming that stock code is available and set up correctly for web enabled as well. So very, very handy if you want to have, say, a picture and a fact sheet or, nutritional information, that kind of thing available on the website. I'll also just mention some of the other options here, downloading the document, emailing the document straight away from this interface, deleting that and updating the validity range if you want to do that at a later date.
The other point, Simon, to mention there as well is the purging facility. The validity dates can also be helpful when you're wanting to purge documents that are essentially expired. Yes, very, very handy point, especially if you're uploading a large number of invoices and documents. And so if you take advantage of the default 7 years validity, and after that you're not required to hold those documents legally, that's a very, very handy feature to purge based on the validity date. Thank you. So I'll just show you now some of the handy features of the stock documents, including where they can be accessed from within Nexus. Okay, and a common place where you would see them is in profile order entry. If we load up our same data from before, you'll see now that we have 2 buttons within the profile on this screen. Okay, and that's against our Pringles and our baked beans. So immediately what that's telling us is that there is a stock document for that stock code. Okay, and if the customer has any questions while you're taking the order, let's say on the phone about the nutritional information or maybe about something else that might be available in the fact sheet, the operator here can just simply click that button and bring up the document. So that's a very, very handy quick reference to find some information that may be just available in your specification or manual, etc. There are some other places where it will appear, including in the AI His Inquiry screen that we showed before. Okay, same sort of thing there again. So a new feature that some people may not be aware of, in addition to the stock documents, I just mentioned before we leave the stock documents, one last thing about the stock documents, and that is that you can have your stock documents be warehouse specific or generic across warehouses.
So there is a control file setting within the stock master control files. Okay, so something to be aware of when you start before you start uploading them is the question of, are your stock codes consistent across warehouses, and would you like just one set of documents across all the different warehouses, or would you like that to be different? So something to bear in mind there. So I'll just move on to the new feature, which is the fact that the stock document functionality has been extended to the debtor master records, creditor master records, employees, and GL charts. Okay, so that same functionality can be done. Let's say we'll take the example of the debtors. Okay, if we pick up. Okay, there you are, ABC 10 company. You'll see we have that same button there. For the debtors, it might be handy to upload something like a credit application. Okay, so we have this, and this is a credit application for this debtor. Fill that in, give that default delivery, validity range. So maybe that's only valid for 1 year because it's a 1 year document, 1 year agreement. We attach that. So I'll just retrieve that to show you how that looks. Okay, great. We have a credit application there, and that could be quite handy to retrieve that quickly too. Okay, and for the debtors and creditors and etc. type documents, they are available to be accessed quickly within Nexus in a similar way to the stock documents. Okay, and you'll see that in Nexus 10 across the top in the toolbar. So if I was to load, for instance, debtors invoice entry, and I'll create a new invoice using that same debtor, you'll see at the top now we have a button to indicate that there are stock documents for this record. So what that means is at any point during the order, if you have some question that can only be answered by looking at those documents, say looking at the credit application or maybe the terms or something else specific for that debtor, you can quickly press that button and bring that up straight away again. So that's in a number of programs across Nexus 10, and you'll see that more and more as we go forward. If you load a debtor that does not have any stock documents attached, you'll see that it just has a white button, which is allowing you to attach a new document there. So I'll just now take this time to mention that the Document Center interface can be launched just from the menu. Okay, so you could do that via a speed button in the sys menus using the Doc Center button, or by searching in the tree menu for Document Center. Okay, and then we have Nexus Document Center there. When you launch this from the Nexus front page, or your control center, sorry, you're presented with a search criteria window. Now this window is very, very handy for finding documents that you've entered in before. So there's a number of options here for document types or document keys, which is say your invoice number. You can search by create date, year and period. As I mentioned before, you can search via the validity range. Okay, so you can say only documents that are valid in a certain range, debtors, modules, as well as one important feature here, which is the free text search. The free text search, when configured correctly, allows you to actually search within the invoice itself or any other documents that have been created. So that's very, very handy if you only know vague terms about the types of data that was in that document and you want to try and narrow it down. Say the customer doesn't have their invoice number, but they can tell you some items that were on that invoice. Very, very handy for that.
The other thing, Simon, is in the document type drop down. Don't think that because there's only 2 in that list that's all that's compatible. That drop down has just what you have entered. It's not a limitation as to what can indeed go in there.
Correct. This is the documents that we've entered so far just in that training, and that is the stock invoice print document, a stock document, and an AR master document. So all the document types that you have there will be shown. Okay, I'll just exit out of that now. And I'll mention another new document type, which some people certainly aren't aware of yet, and is very, very handy and long been requested. And so we now have a solution for that, and that is a creditor's invoice document. So creditor's invoice can be entered in a transactional sense into Nexus, but currently we don't have a way to store the actual document that the creditor might send you for that invoice. So we want to make sure that this tool serves as a filing cabinet for all documents within your business, and it now can do that. So opening up creditor's invoice entry. Okay, I'm just going to find my creditor here. Okay, again, as I mentioned earlier, this is the toolbar button to indicate that you can attach a document to the creditor itself. Okay, but we also have one to attach it to the invoice. So if I just enter my invoice here. Once we save the header, we have a document field here, and we're now given the paperclip button that we've seen elsewhere, and it's currently telling us that no supporting document has been attached. So once the header has been saved, you can now attach a document. Okay, I'm going to browse for a file. I have a invoice here, which was the Raycol invoice. Okay, the key will be fixed here because we aren't going to be able to choose that. That's going to be tied to the invoice here. We can attach that. Once the supporting document is attached, that will now be tied to the invoice. I'll just save this invoice so that we can retrieve it afterwards. To retrieve that, we can use creditor's transaction inquiry. Load our creditor, and you'll see we only have one current invoice there, and we have that same document button as we've seen earlier with the stock documents. So just clicking that brings up the invoice and allows us to see that saved at that point in time. Now, if you would like to go and backdate and fill up all previous invoices and get rid of those paper invoices from your filing cabinets and have them stored digitally, you can do so using the AP Transaction Inquiry interface or also using the Creditor's History Inquiry interface. So simply just use F2 option and attach a supporting document for this transaction there. So very, very handy if you want to go through and remove all those paper documents from your system and your cluttered up filing cabinets and have them all digital. Also, in a similar manner, you can attach a document to a creditor's invoice receipt or stock receipt, sorry. So we have our invoice here, and we're going to enter the lines of stock that we received, or maybe we're going to load a purchase order. You'll notice if we go into the F2 options, we have a scan a document button here. Okay. Now, previously this was just scanning, but it now also supports uploading a file that may have been sent to you. A common scenario though would be that the invoice is with the goods, and you just want to scan that using the scanner. Okay, and so that's a quick and easy way to scan that document using your scanner there and ensure that you have a copy of that. So another thing in terms of using Nexus Document Center as a filing cabinet and storing documents, we wanted to make that functionality fairly open-ended so that you can basically use it how you want, and because we're not totally sure what types of documents you may want to store. So to support that, we're allowing you to attach a document type of your own choosing. So if you're an administrator, you can open up the Nexus Document Center, okay, and we'll just do a search for all of them at the moment because we don't have too many documents. You can see all the documents that we have entered so far. Now, using button 6 here from the document screen is upload new document, also available from the F2 option here. Okay, so pressing option 6, this allows you to attach a document, and here you can select the document type. You'll notice that we aren't able to enter in any of those previous document types that we've seen so far, and that's because this is not the correct interface to do so. But we can enter what we call a new type, and we can give that new type some sort of description.
So this might be handy if you want to store, let's say, all your credit applications in one place and you don't want that tied to the debtor. So we might. Okay, and here you could put in a debtor code or identifier if you wish. You could also leave that blank. Okay, and when you upload a document here, it gives it the default key, but we might just call this one like that, so we can retrieve that later. Again, the options are available for giving it a default to the validity. Okay, and you'll see here that we have one item in the credit app doc type. Okay, so in future, if you wanted to just receive, view all the documents that you created under your new type, when you go to the document type drop down, as Jamie mentioned, the types that you have entered so far will become available. Okay, and we might just have to get out and back in again just to bring that up for our new type. There we go. There's our new credit app type there. So we can just search for them and bring up all our credit app documents there. So very, very handy if you want to use the Nexus Document Center in an open-ended way to restore documents of your choosing in your configuration. At that point there, you could probably destroy those paper documents because you now have a digital copy safe and sound. So one last thing I'll touch on here, don't want to take too much more of your time, but one last thing we'll touch on is the security configuration for documents. So this is obviously a big concern, especially if you're going to be uploading things or storing things such as payslips. That's quite a common scenario that you might be concerned about the security there. Okay, so it's worth noting that the security for a particular document, let's say a payslip or a stock invoice print, is the same same security used to control that program. So if you can't go into the payslip program within Nexus to generate a payslip, then you also won't be able to retrieve one. So that's the most simple way to control the security, is just to make sure that only the users who have access to that program to generate the document can retrieve that document. Okay, but we can also restrict the security a little bit further. So using Nexus Program Maintenance, using this we can search for instance, using the program filter, we can search for doc. Okay, and you'll see this will bring up all the different types of documents that we have. Okay, but let's just pick on one example of the stock doc. Okay, so this is a security record just for stock documents, which, as I'm sure you're aware, isn't actually a program name. So this isn't tied to a program. This is a special type of document that has its own security configured in here. Okay, so using this program, you can configure the required security level, the module to check. The default will obviously be stock, and the default security is 4. You'll notice that there's a second record under here, which we call a configuration of that security, and that's the attachment security configuration. So that's a special security which is controlling who can and can't attach documents, as opposed to just retrieving them. So there's 2 levels of differentiation there in case you don't want people uploading documents willy-nilly, or maybe the other way around. You don't want people seeing documents of certain security. It's worth mentioning here that you can actually set a password to attaching a document. Okay, so just entering a password into the password field here. Saving that. And you could also do the same against the stock document itself for retrieving. Save that. Now, at any point in the future, if you wish to retrieve a stock document, you have to have the correct password. See here, we're presented with the pop-up for the program password, and we get that wrong. We're presented with the message that we can't retrieve that document. So very, very handy if you want to lock the documents down and you don't want the wrong people seeing the wrong type of information there. Okay, so that pretty much concludes the main part of the presentation. I will have a chance to go over the Q&A. Okay, but just before I do so, I just want to say thank you very much for coming and attending our first training session.
There will be a few more in the future, so please do keep an eye out, particularly if they're in an area that may interest you, or even if they're not, we encourage you to register, share around your organization, and try and spread that knowledge out, get your users empowered with the ability to take the full advantage of Nexus. I will mention that the recording of this presentation will become available and we will distribute that to you. So if you do want to share that around to people who weren't able to make it, or if you came late, well, that's very handy because then you can review that, go back to the beginning and watch it again, or as many times as you like. So now I think, Jamie, if you want to run me through any questions out in the Q&A, depending on if people were quite content with the content or keeping up.
Most of the questions have been answered, Simon, if you want to read them out. There was just one question there, I risk repeating, you may have said it, I may have missed it, regarding the ability to send more than one document in an email. The document center does have the ability to select multiple lines in one go in the interface. You can then right click and email, etc. But yeah, if you go through them, Simon, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, sure. I'll just touch on them so that way they're also available for the recording too, which will be handy. Not sure if you want to show just my face or something like that. Okay, so we have a question here. How do you delete an assigned document if you do make a mistake? Okay, and you can right click on the document in the document center and delete that document very simply there as well. Okay, so the other question is, how accurate is the OCR model from the third party? Okay, and that's a system that's been in place in a number of our clients for some time now and is working fairly well. Obviously, it depends on the quality of the scan and the printout and the type of document used, the type of barcode, but that's something that you can tinker with easily and make sure that's running smoothly. So that's yeah, not really an issue that we've had so far. So a question about the Nexus Pickup, and as I mentioned, there will be more information on Nexus Pickup in the future, so please do keep an eye out for that. But the question is Nexus Pickup compatible with iOS software, i.e. for an iPad? Okay, the Nexus Pickup runs basically in a browser and has been designed to be reactive and allowing you to run it on any size screen, and certainly supports touch screens and that type of thing. It won't be, I don't believe, a native mobile app. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, but that was my understanding, was that it was just a browser-based piece of software.
For the moment, yes, that's correct.
Yes, it is a web app. Yeah, but Nexus Delivery, on the other hand, is a mobile app.
Great. Okay, so I've answered that the training session will be available afterwards. Yep. Okay. The question was, can the stock doc also be available on the web in Storefront through the web Storefront API? I think maybe that came through before I answered that. And yes, using the web enabled. Okay, and that's from Nexus 10 onwards. Okay, so we had a question here, is Nexus Pickup compatible with iOS? That's another duplicate again. So yeah, that will be available on that screen there.
There's a question being omitted, the one above from Daniela. Yeah. Okay,
can you access files through the stock availability window? I can't remember on the top of my head if you can at the moment at this stage. Be worth finding out if you can. I think there may have been an F2 option there. Let me just double check. Certainly it's not out of the question to be adding that in the future, so we're always welcome for suggestions like that, because yeah, if you guys come up with great ideas like that, we're happy to put them in. At this stage, I don't think we have that available there. So that's a great idea, Jamie. If you want to make a note of that, we can add that into that screen there.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the question is, where does the document appear in Storefront? Okay, and as we mentioned, that's available in Nexus 10, and that'll appear on the product detail page. So when you go into the product detail, the documents will be available there.
There's also a question above that.
We answered that. Jamie mentioned that one a moment ago about the emailing more than one document, and yes, the answer to that question is yes. If you select multiple lines and right-click an email, that will download and email multiple documents
without having to open them, right?
Correct. Yes. As well as downloading and the other options there, such as editing the validity date and things like that.
Is that a feature in later Nexus?
Nexus 10.
I would
Nexus
say
10,
so.
I believe.
Yeah, I think if a client is still on Nexus 2012, for example,
yes,
yeah, they haven't seen it. That's because they are on an older version. Yes.
So that question came through a few times. Okay. So we had a question, can we scan paper invoices in bulk and have them automatically attached to the transactions in Nexus, like the way that the proof of delivery documents are scanned? And we are looking at considering something like that. We haven't implemented it yet, but it is a great idea. One that would take a little bit of tinkering as to how we identify the creditor and that type of thing. So there is something to be understood there about the requirements and how that would work. Again, if it requires OCR technology, that's something that we don't specialize in. However, there are third-party solutions that could do that as well. So we could look at something like that. So please do reach out and talk to us.
And the current infrastructure we have with the proof of deliveries, that mechanism would not be at all difficult, if not already would work. So the infrastructure there would not be a problem at all. We haven't had that request to date.
So it's come from an anonymous. So please, yeah, do reach out to us and let us know your requirements if that's something you're interested in, and we're happy to talk about that. So the last question here is, when entering stock and uploading a supplier invoice, can you search the supplier invoice number in the document center to view the uploaded document? And the answer is yes. So using the document key option there within the search criteria, allowing you to search invoice number or supplier invoice number, that type of thing. So you can use a number of the options within that screen to really narrow down your search, including document type and the transaction number. Okay, I think that covers all the questions. If you still have any further questions, please just reach out to our consulting team in the near future about anything you saw here. As we mentioned, we will be making this link available, so just look out for that. And please share that around your organization to better spread the knowledge. But otherwise, thank you very much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you at the next training.